What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the best lightning demon form build in Path of Exile 2 0.3 update. So this build is absolutely powerful because the demon form got a massive buff in this patch. Not only can you finally use it with the weapons, but now your demon flame stacks now give more spell damage instead of just increased. This little change may not sound huge on paper, but trust me, it transforms the demon form. So now he can delete maps and bosses in seconds. At its core, this build is a lightning caster that just uses the demon form as a damage booster. By channeling spells like the Arc, Spark or the Ball Lightning, you supercharge their output through the demon's form bonuses, so flat levels to all of your spells, insane cast speed and scaling stacks of the demon flames that provide more damage multipliers. That means every single cast will become more destructive the longer you fight, and with the proper sustain, you can keep this form active 24/7. When it comes to bosses, the demon form shines even brighter. The Ball Lightning and the Lightning Warp will work together to create overlapping storms of projectiles, while the shock multipliers and penetration modifiers will make sure that no enemy can withstand the barrage. At the same time, mapping feels effortless, so sparks and chains crisscross across the screen. Then Orb of Storms keep the pressure applied, and Herald effects will ripple through the packs like a thunderstorm. Then defensively, you'd expect the demon form to be risky because of the degeneration, but actually this version turns that weakness into a manageable mechanic. We will stack spell suppression, get our resistances capped, and we've got a build that not only survives in the endgame but absolutely thrives. And remember, if you want to track this build, look up the best items, the skill trees and path of building, then check my link in the description. And before we continue, thanks to U4GM. They are a pro website that provides POE2 services like cheap currency, then even to trade all types of quality items and gems and much more. They have also more than 20,000 positive comments on Trustpilot, and this website is really worth a try. So make sure to use my discount code KAID for extra 6% off. So let's break down the heart of this build, which are the active skill gems. The centerpiece of course is the demon form itself. We scale it with the cooldown reduction and supports like the second wind, to make sure that the transformation feels smooth and fluid. Once you're in the form, you want to stay there, because all of your real damage will come alive when those wings are out. Then for mobility and clearing, the lightning warp is your go-to. It's one of the flashiest skills in the game. You can literally blink into the packs and explode everything around you in a burst of electricity. The trick here is to scale its cast speed and efficiency so that it feels instant. And once set up properly, you're not just teleporting, you're actually chaining across the maps in seconds. Then next, the Ball Lightning is your primary nuke, and this is where the demon form really shows off. With supports like the faster casting, critical strike scaling and the projectile modifiers, each ball turns into a rolling orb of devastation. Then against bosses, the stacking multiple orbs with a war position will cover them in a constant overlapping hits, and against packs, the sheer density of the bolts will make it impossible for anything to survive. The Orb of Storms will serve as a secondary anchor, so drop it in a fight and continuously apply exposure while zapping around the enemies. This not only adds free damage but also ensures that your critical strikes feel consistent. We also make use of the Lightning Condiant through the cast on critical setup. Every crit will chain into additional bursts, by boosting your damage output even further. It's incredibly satisfying to see the entire screen light up with the synchronized detonations. Then for sustain, you rely on gems like the Clarity and Vitality to help counterattack the demon form's life drain. You want to pair this with the cooldown efficiency scaling in the convalescence mechanic, and now you will find it comfortably to maintain your form without constantly worrying about your HP. And to round things out, the Sigil of Power will provide an empowering zone for both AoV fight and boss encounters. Standing in the circle will give you both the damage and defensive boosts, which will synergize perfectly with the demon's form aggressive playstyle. Now let's talk about a little quirk, because as amazing the demon form is, there is a bug that you're almost guaranteed to encounter if you play this build. Sometimes when you change areas while already transformed, your auras will just stop working. Even if all of your stats check out, you suddenly find yourself unable to enable them. And the telltale sign is when you load into a new zone and notice that your spirit orb is mysteriously full. And this is the bug. The fix is simple but important. You want to exit the demon form and re-enter it. If things start feeling strange, like you're suddenly slow for no reason during a trial of chaos, or your buffs aren't applying correctly, then the first step is always to drop the form and then pop in. It's a little annoying, but the developer said they're gonna patch it in a day or two. Then next up, moving over to the passive skill tree. The general goal here is obvious: stack as much lightning damage as possible. Nodes like the Breath of Lightning, Pure Power, and Electric Amplification will form the backbone of your scaling. These will ensure that your core skills, like the Ball Lightning and the Warp Condiant, will hit the kind of density that the demon form needs. On top of that, you're going to pick up the critical strike nodes. The crit not only pushes your baseline damage higher, but it also fuels the cast on critical setups to make your Lightning Condiant detonate like crazy. The synergy is beautiful once it all comes together. A key keystone you'll be taking is the Anchor of the Storm. This grants you a massive buff when your anchor is active, but it does come with a trade-off. You only need to deal lightning damage. That's not a problem for this build, since everything in your kit is pure electricity anyway. Just make sure to avoid items with a straight physical or elemental conversion, as that could mess with it. Then defensively, we will focus into Energy Shield Sustain. Faster recharge start and increased recharge rate will keep your energy shield coming back quickly between the bursts of damage. Combine this with the Convalescence mechanic and this makes your defenses surprisingly steady, especially once paired with the regen gear. Overall, this tree is made to progress naturally through. You get your early damage multipliers, stack in crit chance as gear improves, and then round things out with the Energy Shield Sustain. Next up we have Ascendancy, and for the class we are going with the Witch, and our Ascendancy is the Infernalist, which synergizes beautifully with the demon form. The first point that you want to grab is the Altered Flesh. This will unlock the transformation and setting the foundation of the build. Next up is Demonic Possession, which amps up the power of your form while improving sustain. Then from there we take the Baden's Hand, which will give us devastating offensive scaling. That fits perfectly with our lightning spell setup. And finally, the Baden's Will round things out by enhancing both the damage and survivability to complete the Infernalist package. This order will ensure that you're always scaling in a balanced way, so early access to the form, then sustain, then the raw damage, and finally defensive consistency. By the time that you're finished with the Ascendancy progression, your character will feel completely transformed, fluid, destructive, and tanky enough to comfortably handle the endgame content without sacrificing blistering pace that makes the demon form so fun. Now let's shift into the Atlas passive tree, because the endgame farming strategy is a huge part of any successful build. The Lightning Demon form build will thrive when you invest into consistent mechanics. In 0.3 that means focusing heavily on essences, strong boxes, harvest and delirium, as well as bossing nodes. The core of our tree will stay centered, with branches into the lower and the middle clusters. So on the left we will lean into the harvest and the essences for guaranteed crafting and dependable monster spawns. Then on the right, we will push into the strong boxes and the Legion expeditions, which will flood mobs with the extra mobs and the loot explosions. And on top of that, you will path into the bossing nodes that enhance the Conqueror, Maven, Elder and the Shaper content by ensuring that you can push through the progression while still farming profitably. The most important part here is that you're not spreading yourself too thin by clustering your investments, say for example Essence plus the strong boxes, so you will guarantee consistent encounters and steady currency, while still leaving the room to push the bosses whenever you feel like it. It's a flexible setup that suits both the steady mappers and dedicated boss hunters. Next up, let's talk about the gear. For offense, your weapon is everything. You can either way go with a staff or a wand and a focus. And you want to prioritize stats like the plus levels to spell skills, with plus 6 being the dream, and percentage increase to lightning or the spell damage, as well as critical strike chance. The cast speed and mana regeneration will excel quality of life bonuses, but damage scaling comes first. Don't forget to also get plus levels on your amulet, as it is a huge power boost. Defensively, the single most important stat across your gear is the life regeneration. Your demon form will drain you constantly, so you'll want around 180 flat regen per second before the build really starts to stabilize. On top of that, you want to aim for high maximum life and maximum energy shield, since maximum life also increases your spirit and the extra energy shield through the Ascendancy, which will push us towards at least 2000 plus life. You'll also want plus spirits on your body armor to fit all of your auras. On top of it, other good sustain options are life per enemy killed, which can roll on rings or the gloves, and they will help us to smooth out mapping before you hit your regen threshold. And also, don't forget about the chaos resistance. The chaos bypasses energy shield, so capping it is vital for our survival. Then for utility, you want to stack maximum mana and increased mana regen to support your heavy casting rotation. Around plus 50 spirit is mandatory as well, so you want to prioritize that on your amulets or armor. And finally, the cast speed round things out by making the entire build feel battery smooth. The gearing priority here is simple: secure a strong weapon first, then lock your sustain through the regen and the chaos resistance, and then polish off your setup with the spirit, cast speed and defensive stacks. And now finally, let's see how to actually play this build. The gameplay loop is insanely fun. For clearing, you'll want to warp through the max by using the lightning warp, and chaining across the screen in the flashes of electricity, while the ball lightning will follow up with the rolling waves of devastation. It feels like you're just using 2 skills, and blinking from pack to pack by detonating them as you arrive. And then against bosses, your setup gets a little more deliberate. Start by dropping the sigil power to empower the area, then place down a couple of Orb of Storms for exposure and the steady debuffs. Once that's set, you want to weave in together the ball lightning plus the lightning warp by creating overlapping storms of projectiles, while simultaneously warping through them for the bonus explosions. If you made this build properly, then bosses will barely last long enough to respawn. The demon form itself should always be active. You will notice that stacks will climb almost instantly as you transform, and as long as you've hit your regen thresholds, there's no ever reason to change your form, except of course when fixing the bug that we talked earlier about. If you want to play this build, then you will be clearing entire screens with a blink, annihilating bosses in seconds, and looking absolutely incredible while doing it.